Phil will be your main technical person today. I'm just here to help out at the start in lieu of Christina's away. So maybe if we could start off with the acknowledgement. I'd just like to acknowledge all the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia which we meet today. We're all in various spots around this wonderful country. I'm on lovely Larrakia land up in Darwin. So we'd just like to recognise their connections to land, sea and community, pay our respects to their elders past and present and emerging, and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people today. We'll just have a run through the agenda. So we'll do welcomes and introductions. We'll do a quick around the room once I go through the agenda items, just so everyone's aware of who's in the meeting, and if there's anyone new, what their backgrounds are. Looks like some pretty familiar faces in here today. Just an update on the tag chair, and I'll do that now. We've actually contacted, I think, towards the end of last week, the successful tag chairs, and we're just waiting for full responses from those to go public with the tag chairs for each of the tags. So they'll be announced shortly, probably through our socials and also through the what's that, Energize newsletter that comes out, and probably spoken about at the next Insights meeting as well. So if you did nominate, you should have received now whether you're successful or not, and we're just waiting for confirmation from the successful applicants. So we'll do a quick run through our last online tag, which was June. So the tag report for that. We did have our All In Brisbane, which a number of people in this room came to. We'll do some updates on projects and training product maintenance activities that we've got going on. We'll also do some updates on the requests that have been received from PSOs. So we're doing a bit of a general sort of winding out the year in this tag. What we've achieved so far, what we've taken on board from various stakeholders, and then where we're going into 2025, and that'll be when we really open up the discussion about where the people in the room have issues or training package related activities that they'd like to see happen. And then we're also going to touch on the 30320 around CDERA and AMCA cable licensing and accreditation, but I'll leave that up to Phil because he's the expert in that area, and a couple of experts in the room, and then we'll close out. There'll be a bit of time for questioning, but we're certainly going to have plenty of open discussion. So I might just go around the room quickly. I don't think Phil needs to introduce himself. Everyone in the tag's well aware, but we've also got Brett McMinn's pretty new to our team. Do you want to just do a quick intro, Brett?
Sure, Brady. So yeah, otherwise known as B2 in this room, I guess, just to not get confused. But I'm part of the industry engagement team, so I work sort of parallel with Brett and Phil, and in with Lyndall under her as senior engagement. And so basically, just try to make sure that we get the right people in the room for this. I don't know how you made it in here, Paul, Vivian, but you're a good contributor, so we like having you here. So that's basically my role.
He's getting even now. Here we go.
Yeah. I've given you some pump ups, mate. Yeah, and just try to make sure that we get the right passionate people here to make some really strategic and some positive change to these training packages and to this area, because it's a bit of a forgotten one, I suppose, in a way. So looking at this, I think I've got a bit of work to do to try and get some more people in this one. I think Brett and Phil to try and bolster our stocks in this room. So that's a bit of a task for me in this one. But yeah, that's me. Thanks, Brett.
Thanks, Brett. I'm sure everyone in the room knows Pete Adams as well. He's been around for as long as Phil and I. I'm going to leave him alone because he's a bit under the weather. So he'd just be observing and probably answering in the chat today, but he's not well. So, but Lyndall, Lyndall Manson, sorry, would you like to introduce yourself to the room?
Yes. Hello, everyone. Lyndall Manson. I'm the Senior Manager of Industry Engagement, and yes, relatively new to PSO and sitting in on these meetings just to I mean, really, this is the bread and butter of PSO to improve my technical knowledge and hear all about progress, training package, updates, maintenance, and so on. So looking forward to sitting in on these discussions.
And last from PSO, certainly not least, we've got Rachel Koplik, who's joined our technical team. Do you want a quick introduction, Rach?
Hi everyone, Rachel Koplik. I think this is my third weekend, so I'm just here assisting the technical training team.
Thanks, Rach. David Mully.
Yep. Oh, pardon, losing my voice as well. Yeah, I'm Dave Mully. I years as a Cert 4 rail signalling, walking around the tracks for a million years before I moved into ESI as the engineering competency manager for engineering maintenance plans within Sydney Trains.
Thanks, Dave.
The knees gave out, so that's why I said I was time to get off the tracks.
Jux.
Let's see if it works this time. Can you hear me this time?
Very quiet.
Well, that's something at least.
That's a change.
Listen to him. My name is Jacques. I work for Pier. I'm the education manager at Pier, and we do electrical, refrigeration, engineering, plumbing, etc.
Thanks, Jokes. Jess Collins. You with us, mute. Jess?
No sound, Jess.
Yeah, we can't hear you. We can see you.
Hello.
Oh, that's better. Yeah.
No worries.
We know you're there. So Jess is with the Energy Safe Victoria. Mike Kohler.
G'day, McCullough here from TAFE, and we do data and voice electronics.
And Patrick.
Howdy guys, everyone probably knows me from around the place, but I haven't been able to catch in a lot of these ones until now, because I've been away doing. You always tend to put these on a date when I've got something on. So, but yeah, for those that don't know, I'm recently retired, but still got my hands in, and basically I'm sitting in on this, helping out Dominic from ADTIA, TITAB and CITT.
Thanks, Patrick. And Mr. Vivian?
Paul Vivian. I'm the technical consultant for CEDIA and training manager for Skills Recognition International, specialising in telecommunications.
Thanks. I don't think I've missed anyone, but if I have, please sing out. Look, small group today, it's probably reflective of the time of year we're at, end of November. I know particularly in RTO land is pretty stressful and busy time, and probably the same in industry, trying to get things tidied up for the Christmas break. So, but a good cohort in the room of knowledge, even though it is a small group. So we might move on to the June tag report. So a couple of things to note here. In the attendees by jurisdiction, a really good range from right across Australia with every state and territory represented, and then a good national representation as well. So that was really good. We had 58 people register, 42 attend, and of those 42, we had 26 complete the request for advice. So I think everyone's been here before, but our request for advice will be sent out sometime between now and the end of the year to follow up on this meeting, and any points that are raised during the meeting. We'll try and have questions to address those in those requests for advice. There is just one that covers all 5 tag groups, but you can just tick the box of which tag groups you want to answer questions on. So if you're purely in this tag, this is your only one, you just have to answer the questions regarding this, put your details in once. If you're in numerous tag groups, you've only got to put your details in once, and then you can get through the questions around each tag after that. So they should go out pre-close of business before Christmas, and we'll make notes during today's meeting of stuff that people raise that can be potential questions that we want to ask there. And then I guess the other thing, so that good response from the 42 attendees at 26 we got back. Ideally, we'd like to get 42 requests for advice back, but we know people are busy as well. And then also the organisational type would be the other thing to take from those charts. Really good spread across various industry stakeholder groups. And as usual, there's full report available on our website if you want to go into detail of what questions were asked in that request for advice, responses we got, all those tag reports across all the groups from all the tags we've held are available via our website. If you haven't had a look lately, the website has been updated. It's hopefully a lot easier to navigate around, a bit user-friendly. So knock yourself out and get on there and have a look. Now I'll hand over to Phil to take you through some of the technical stuff.
Thanks, Brett. And yeah, so, and just as Brett was going through that, it reminded me that this is probably the first tag group we've had where we've combined it together. So we combine the information for that tag report, but this is the first one as we've brought the ELV and the specialist together. So perhaps, yeah, and Brett too mentioned this, but probably if you can get out to your network so we can get a few more people on board. We do seem down a little bit in numbers, but that won't stop the discussions that will happen today. So just thought I'd go through the next couple of slides was just a bit of an update of where we're at, because some people don't get to all of our tag meetings and we don't expect them to, but some of the projects that we do have underway with Powering Skills at the moment is the UET or the rescue units. These are the refresher units that include the rescue from live panel. So this is out for consultation at the moment. A couple of highlights of that was some of the assessment conditions that are changed and the prerequisites that were proposed. So if this unit interests you, or those 7 units actually interest you, jump on board and have a look at those ones. RA51, an air conditioning unit, closed for consultation now, but a lot of people came back and commented on that one. The next few there are the energy sector pathway is the Cert 2 project, still in the technical committee stage at the moment. Consolidation of competency development units, that one's gone out for consultation and again onto our website. And as Brett mentioned, our website's had a little bit of an update. Very easy to jump onto those project pages and have a bit of a look and see where they're at. And our ERAC Essential Performance Capability project, still in technical committee stage at the moment as well. A new one that's popped up and just in its early stages is looking at the elective pathways for the energy sector. Now, whether that's in the... so this is sort of about giving more of a choice or working out why that when you do certain qualifications, there's a very limited scope of electives that are chosen. There's lots of electives in the qualification themselves, but a very small amount of electives actually get chosen. So there'll be a bit of a research and a bit of a look into those pathways there. PSO, of course, are looking at minor changes to all of the training packages we're in, and we're in knee deep into a lot of those minor changes that you'll probably see pop up into the new year. Another one that is coming on strong is the Workforce Blueprint project. So this is about the capability and the capacity of the vet sector to cope with change, but also looking at the trainers in the industry. Is there enough trainers? Do the RTOs have enough capability to meet all those targets that we're talking about as we move into the renewable and net zero type arrangements? You know, will the TAFEs, will the RTOs, will they have enough capacity to take on new apprentices? And can we get the trainers that we need to train that? So that's kicking off, or that's well underway, that blueprint project. So again, all of those projects and those things are up on our website. Jump on. These ones here, just a quick one. Some of the things that we've been discussing in the tags over the year. Some of these we might touch on again as people come on and put their requests for change or their in the issues register that we've got. They come on onto our website, put a case for change in. So these are some of the things that have been discussed as we're talking about there. And I think we're going to have a little bit of a chat about some of this ITC stuff again today. Interesting that the discussion on low enrolments and pathways in some of these qualifications there as well are coming up. And yeah, some of the things that we've closed out and some of the things that we're looking for further consultation on. So just a quick update there as we perhaps move into the next one. So this one here is probably in our solar type space, but I wanted to do a bit of a shout out or a bit of a call out to people if they have come across this RE0051 unit at all. It was brought to our attention that it's a unit that has a lot of electrical information, and I reckon if there's anyone on board that wants to just have a quick Google at that while you're on board, you'll see that the amount of electrical concepts that are in there is, well, this unit, I'm trying to explain it, this unit has no prerequisites behind it, but it has a large amount of electrical concepts in it, including cable design, cable selection, and I might pass over to Quinton because I see his hand up and I reckon he may have been the one that actually pointed it out. So if you don't mind, Quinton.
Yeah, no worries, mate. Just to give you a background, how I've described this unit.
It's hard to describe.
It's capstone without the prerequisites. It was you and I that sort of debated what it was there for, and from what we can gather, it was designed to allow electrical engineers to go from an engineering background to get this unit to then move into, it was then a prerequisite for renewable units. So the idea of it was good and sound. However, it's being used now to bring people with no electrical background into the renewable industry, and using it. It's particularly needed in the design units of renewable energy. The issue is this unit was written, I believe, for people that have a huge volume of knowledge and experience behind them in engineering. And it's being used now. There's some RTOs that are delivering this over 4 days now. And you know, if you consider capstone, just to get to EL39, you need to do 3 years of study at a TAFE or private RTO, and then you get the chance to do EL39. This is being delivered and assessed in just over 4 days. So that's what the issue I think we flagged with it is because there's a push to get non-electricians to do renewable energy designs out there. Now, those designs include things like single line diagrams, protection, isolation, concepts that electricians learn over years. So, but that's how I describe it. It's the capstone without the prereqs.
And that's a good point, because I just pulled up the performance evidence there, and we're talking about calculating cable sizes, isolator sizes, protection device sizes, which electricians take 4 years to undertake. So I don't know if anyone else has come across that unit, but interested to know if anyone's got any other thoughts on that. We might also bring this along to our UEE general tag just to get a little bit of a opinion there as well. But it was when it was pointed out, after reading through and it sits in the advanced diploma. So in theory, if it's sitting in a qualification like the Advanced Diploma of Engineering Technology Renewable, those people might have an understanding of it. But when it's used as a equivalent to EL39 in some of those design units of the solar, that's when I think we might have a few people that have a bit of an issue with it. So yeah, bit of an interesting one. The next one we've got there was also brought to PSO, come through our website. So this is again in that renewable space, and I think in a lot of these renewable units, I don't think they've been, besides solar, they haven't been taken up a lot. I think a lot of people were still working with the old type arrangement. But if we look at RE60 or RE70, it has units that are EL39 and EL12, for example, that are listed as the prerequisite type units. So these are for install in solar situations as well. But an example that came to PSO is, so electrician, been working for 10 years or so, doesn't actually hold EL39 or EL12. So they don't meet the prerequisites of those units to be able to do the install type units. Now, we can reflect back to an electrical license, gives you the prerequisites for these units through the capstone, but it also puts an RTO into a bit of a difficult situation, because that capstone doesn't mean, or holding an electrical license doesn't mean you actually you can actually have the credit for that unit. It means that, you meet the prerequisites. So just wondering if potentially there might need a wording change to some of those units to, we might put in there something like EL12 or EL39, or an electrical license, unrestricted electrical license. So just again, looking for some feedback on that. Quinton?
Look, I think most RTOs, if the grandfather clause doesn't change, that gets you around this. So as long as the grandfather clause doesn't change too dramatically, I don't think it's an issue at the moment. But I mean, if we're doing changes to these units, we should obviously incorporate that sort of wording. But
yeah,
the grandfather clause pretty clearly states that if they hold an unrestricted license in any state, then they're deemed competent in 39 and its prerequisites. So
yeah,
and 12 is I think 12 is a prerequisite of 39. So
yes,
yeah.
So I don't think that. I mean, it'd be good to have the wording, but it's probably not
worth doing the change just for the sake of a change.
Yeah.
Patrick?
yes, that grandfather clause that you're talking about, I know it very, very well because I put it in there.
Yep.
The other component about it is that there's also the extra wording in there that says that you are actually current and using that electrical license. There is the actual wording in there. It's not just having an electrical license. You've got to be using it.
Yeah.
And there's two parts of it. And I don't think there's any, if everyone and all the RTOs that have sort of said, we're going to give them the credit for the unit. Well, that was never the intent. It was a case of simply, if you hold a license, you meet the prereqs, you can actually go into the units and do those units and move forward and keep and maintain. Otherwise, the only option you had to do, which is why I put it in there back in about 2010, was you had to RPL the whole qual for $89,000 odd just to go and do a post-trade course. No one did it. It was destroying itself.
Yeah.
But it's and it's the thing that's been running around in the electrical tag. It's basically just guidance on the wording of what it means, and in the companion volumes and all that, that's all missing. And I think some of the intent is people are trying to wordsmith it around to mean things that it should not be.
Yeah. No, I think you're right there, and thanks for the clarification, Patrick. And I think that's something that probably could do. You mentioned the companion volume there, and I think that's maybe where we can put some more information as to powering skills. We can give a little bit more guidance in there. And I think some of the RTOs do get confused, or not confused is probably the wrong word, but have, for whatever reason, trouble interpreting that. And if you need to have RE 0060, and the RTO wants you to actually hold that EL39 because it's a prerequisite, and to hold it, you need to credit it onto a piece of paper that says you actually hold that unit. So, yeah, the RTOs do.
Well, it's an interpretation of what they believe their compliance requirements are, and an awful lot of people go they make mountains out of molehills because their compliance. That's the thing with ASCO. They're compliance scared.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And the only way to be fully compliant, we've all seen it and we've all heard it. The only way to be fully compliant is you've got to assess every damn word in the whole of the 30 odd units of a qualification. Otherwise, you're going to be in trouble. I mean, that's totally the wrong. That's completely irrelevant, not correct. Yeah. And that's just the thing. But I think putting it in the companion volumes, because the information that's in the companion volumes at the moment, although interesting and usable, there's not much in there that's of guidance to training organisations, other than compliance and mapping people.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right there. And
there's not a single thing in those documents that helps a trainer.
And I think everyone understands why that grandfather clause was put in. And it's exactly what you said. So electricians can upskill without having to bloom and go back and undertake everything that they've already done. So, I mean, it's, yeah.
No, absolutely correct. And as we all know, units of competency on credit transfers only go one or two changes, and then every RTO will run scared from doing a credit transfer.
So, as soon as they start to become non-equivalent.
Yeah, we're a little bit luckier in that the unit, in the grand scheme of stuff, for all those that know the history of it all, the units of competency are completely irrelevant because it's based off the ERAC 48, the current 48s and the old 55s, like 30820 is to the 55. That's the call for licensing, and that's what all the regulators are all worried about. The units, they don't really give a damn. And that's why the ERAC projects, because at the moment, the 30820 is non-compliant to the 48 components of the ERAC.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, that's right.
So that's a bit of homework to come.
Exactly right. Exactly right. All right. So as we said, we'll start to put some of these questions around those two things that we just discussed and these further points into the request for advice as well. So we can get some more feedback around that. The Cert 4 in electrical instrumentation has come up once again. We did have a discussion about that probably a few tags ago, and I went back and I had a look at. So the problem here was that they had introduced the prereq for it, that you got to have the electrical license, I believe, and the numbers of enrolments have stayed pretty much the same, around the 1,400, 1,435 people still in there. But the question was around, should we be looking at creating or going down that higher apprenticeship model now? A couple of states and territories have gone down this pathway by themselves, but not particularly nationally. Is it something that has an appetite within our industry? Is probably the question that we're putting out there.
Well, from my perspective, the Cert 4 instrumentation, which is, and you talk to pure instros, the situation was that the Cert 3 made you a proper instrumentation trade. The Cert 4, where all the electricians jumped in and then did a third of instrumentation trade and then call themselves instros. And the industry wondered why their skills levels, and because they saw it as a Cert 4 and not a Cert 3, as basically it was the Queensland gas plants that stuffed it up across the nation, because industry then jumped on it. The Americans came in, saw the Cert 4, it's a higher level, so we'll make that as the benchmark. Everyone had to have a Cert 4, and yet Cert 3 instros plus electricians with 2 Cert 3s were basically being cut out of the program for employment because they weren't seen as being as a high enough level. Completely wrong. And that, from the liquid gas up in Gladstone, which, as I said, buggered it up, has created a nightmare for the actual industry in itself. The trick being there is that at the moment everyone wants to be a dually. So
yeah,
the 40420 does not make you a dually unless the qualification embeds. I'd be probably more going down to 30820 with a streaming process of a lot more of the Cert 4 of the Cert 3 intro in there, and not just the basic principles of intro. But then you're starting to make a whole interesting hybrid. Don't know if there's any great interest in that, but there's probably not something that's going to get quickly fixed.
Yeah.
But from that perspective, I think if you, from PSO, made a call out to Malcolm Garrick, there's a name from the past, up at the University of Central Queensland, he would be an extremely great contact to be answering that component there, because that's his bread and butter, always has been.
Excellent.
And
Malcolm
on that basis,
Garrick, did you say?
Garrick, yeah.
We might reach out to you.
G-A-R-R-I-C-K.
Might reach out to you, Patrick, and just grab that contact off you.
Sure,
Yeah,
easy.
I've actually got his contact, Phil. He was in a meeting with us yesterday about something else.
Excellent.
And just to pick up on Patrick's point there, I think it's important to note with that Cert 4 that it's not an instrumentation qualification; it's an electrical qual. So
that's right.
As an upskill for electricians to gain some basic instrumentation knowledge, and it did get misunderstood in industry. And I think that's sorted itself out now. But I think the main question here, though, is around the change between the 40411 and the 40420, where the Cert 3 units were basically embedded in the 11. In 40420, they took them out and made that entry requirement of either the Cert 3 or the license. And I think it was mostly New South Wales that caused an issue where they were using it as a apprenticeship model. So you do your embedded Cert 3, but under a Cert 4. And it's sort of taken away that stream.
There was also a case of Queensland Rail in Queensland. They were using that as part of their apprenticeship model as well.
So that might be why we've had the questions come in that those electrical units have been taken out, and now you need that that unrestricted electrical license now. So
so it can't be an apprenticeship because you have to complete the apprenticeship to get the entry level.
Correct. Yeah. All right. Well, that's given us some leads on that one to follow up. Thanks, guys. The second one I've just put in there. Again, this was a discussion that happened earlier in some of the tags that we went to. I suppose the question is that some of the talk was around the communications-based signalling. So we've had some engagement again that leads us to believe that this is starting to get undertaken now. I think New South Wales are starting to move into the communications-based signalling, and there might be someone online that might be able to assist us there. But I suppose this is really of a bit of a shaker, a bit of a speak out to see if there's some people that can give us some contacts. We're looking at potentially having a bit of a round table to see where this qualification might go. Now, it was only revised in 2023, but the information we got is that this communications-based signalling is starting to move reasonably quickly now, and they're starting to put some of the installation in some of the passenger systems, not just in the mining type systems. So looking to see if there's anyone online, and I know we're down on numbers today, but anyone in this space that might be able to give us a little bit of insight. Is it actually happening? And some names of anyone that might be interested in jumping onto a bit of a round table to have the discussions to see whether we actually need to go back to this qualification and have a look and see if we need to be adding this into the communications-based signalling into the qualification itself. Quinton?
I know in New South Wales, and I think this is just about to be changed again, Rail became an RTO themselves, so that they used to send their transformer and lineys to Miller, TAFE, where I am, and they used to send their signalling guys to Ultimo TAFE. So Ultimo TAFE might have a contact for you, but from what I understand, Rail, after doing it for 2 years, is now going to hand it back to TAFE to do it. So if you talk to the head teachers at Ultimo TAFE, it's one of them is, I'll send you his email address.
Yep.
They might be able to at least give you a contact of someone there, who might be able to give you some insight, what their plans are, and that sort of thing. We only deal with the lineys and the substation guys at Miller, but yeah, Ultimo deal with the signalling. So that might be a way to get in that way. That's New South Wales only though, but that might be something.
Yeah. Dave?
Yep. So yes, Ultimo did the Cert 3 for our signalling guys. Petersham's just about to get our L&D model about to go on scope as an RTO for the Cert 4. We're just doing the final course technical reviews of all the training material now.
Yeah.
Yes, we've got 2 pilot areas which are yet to be commissioned a bit late next year, where they commission Sutherland to Cronulla and Eastern Suburbs Railway. But I think it's UEE S026, the communication. It's already in the Cert 4 as an elective option.
So you don't think it needs too much more added to it, or?
Nah, it started from the ETU. They were trying to drive that to get into a core so they could go for more McDollars in their classification structures for the blue-collar workers.
Right.
But it already exists as a core. Elective in the current Cert 4 structure.
I put myself on mute then accidentally. Yeah, it is in the. There is one that is. What do we got there? I was just pulling that up. Yeah, communication-based signalling is in the core there. That S0020. But there was some talk that there might be some extra principles or something new that needed to be in there, but we might grab you on this one, Dave, and have further discussions around that as well.
I actually chair the ARA National Signalling Working Group Matrix, which has got all the RIMs. It's got QR rail. I think this early next year, I think we kick off again. I'll get you an invite if you want to come, and we can discuss it then.
Absolutely, that'd be fantastic, Dave. Yeah. Great.
Too easy. I'll make a note, or I'll forget it before I go on holidays.
No worries. Patrick?
Just from a Queensland perspective, probably to get info for that one, you're probably better having a chat with Skills Tech up here, because I think they were doing most of the signalling for Queensland Rail.
Okay, Skills Tech. Yep.
Yeah, Brett, if I can jump in there, I think Skills Tech campus up at Eagle Farm, they're the one that's getting that new robotics center as well. So they might be well into this. So I might talk to you.
No, they're not.
Oh, they're not.
They're pure telco, and they're not signalling. Over at Skills Tech at Acacia Ridge is all they got signalling, because the rail yards run right in onto campus.
Excellent. All right, very good. All right, some good leads there to follow up. This one here has come to us before, and I could almost get Paul to talk on this one in a minute, but what has come to us and this qualification, and there might be some people online that look at this qualification and say, well, this qualification hasn't been used for a long time. But in saying that, with some of the conversations we've had on late, it might be a qualification that can be revamped or re-looked at, because what we've noticed and what the feedback is that we're getting is that the home automation industry is picking up in leaps and bounds, and it's not just cinema rooms, and it's not just the lighting for these houses, but there's also specialist systems in health and disability. And what we're also finding now is that the solar and the EV and batteries are all becoming monitored, all becoming smartphone apps, and it's all becoming electronic and monitored through Wi-Fi and that sort of stuff, and the Internet over things. So we've had some thoughts about, and I'm not sure if a lot of people on the line know about CEDIA, and I might, at this time, I might get Paul to actually jump on and just give us a little background on what you were thinking around this, Paul, as being a representative from CEDIA as well.
Thanks, Phil. Yeah, the CEDIA is the Custom Electronics Design Industry Association. It's a US-based company. They have currently 2 programs which are non-accredited, obviously, to Australia, for basic cabling and the integration technician. So my job in the beginning was to see whether we could take their existing accreditation stuff and turn it into something within the AQF system. So we looked at the UEE 30320. It is totally out of date, and I really mean out of date, because as everybody knows, technology is changing constantly. We also looked at the ICT 30519, and we put a case for change up for that, and that's being processed at the moment. But also the ICT is being revamped anyway, so we've got a chance to get it in both. The 30320, it, as Phil said, it's very integrated. It's all about integration, and it's the Internet of Things. So home automation is your EVs, your solars, everything going into a phone app, and making it work. So Phil and Steve Hall came to the CEDIA Tech Summit we had in Newcastle a few weeks ago, and were able to really discuss with us what we are looking at doing. Currently, there is a VIC program, which is a Cert 4 in Integrated Technologies, which is the advanced version of the Cert 2, which a couple of RTOs have already got. And that's about to go to final approval. And there is now a home automation stream in that. Using that as a backbone, we want to start looking at putting it back into a proper apprenticeship and having the industry recognised as an actual industry, which is what we don't have at the moment. The biggest complaint we're having from their members and people from within the home automation is they're all classified as electricians, but they're not. And because of that, there is a very distinct demarcation between the two. We still need the ACMA cabling license or registration. It's ACMA, by the way, Phil, in that. So you need to talk to your communications people.
I just noticed that we got to write down the bottom there, but
you got to write down there. Yeah. So what we're trying to do is making sure that all the electricians who are out there all have an ACMA registration, which is fine, but then having people come in and actually making this industry work. So the whole principle behind what we're trying to do with the 30320 is to bring it back. It's been a cock up for the last 15 years because there's been a whole heap of different people having a go at it. It's taken CEDIA about 15 years to actually get to where we are now. And we actually now have a course which is about to be approved for Victoria, But we now want to bring this out nationally and have the industry recognised properly, being able to upskill electricians into this and make it a better industry for everybody.
Yep, thanks, Paul. And I see Quinton put in there, would there be prerequisite? No, the idea that there wouldn't be. So we're looking at potential as a standalone qualification, potentially traineeship if the apprenticeship model didn't work. But they're the questions we probably need to get out from industry. What do they want? Do they want an apprenticeship model? And I think I got down there in those questions that we're putting out into the request for advice is, should it be an apprenticeship, a traineeship? How long should it go for? You know, apprenticeships don't have to go for 4 years. You know, could it be a 3-year apprenticeship or something along those lines? Yeah, Quinton.
Could it be like a stream on the telecommunications Cert 3? Because I mean, looking at it, PSO has been mandated to reduce as many qualifications and units and everything as we go. And like, we're really only talking about the communication side of the equipment, not the ELV side. So the ELV and communication side, you know, would it be better, you know, just as another option, you know, because there's a lot of work to put that qual together. You'd want to have a lot of industry feedback saying it's going to be used if you put all the work in.
Yeah.
Well, but it's already been developed. It's already been developed, Quentin. That's the thing. It's already there. What we need is just to sit back and just revamp it and bring it up to fit for purpose. That's the thing. It is actually a really good qualification. It's just a matter of bringing it back to where it should be. That's all.
The telecommunications one is an interesting conversation, probably for another time or another whole slides, because anyone who is involved in that telecommunications Cert 3 knows that is quite out of date as well when we're talking about copper wires and mode 3 plugs and all those sorts of things. So some of the units that were talked about in here would include those DV units as well, which need an update. I just saw you go in there, but yeah, which is out of date as well, those DV units. So it would need to be, you're right, there would need to be discussions there of the take up of a new qualification. But when we were at this at the CDA conference earlier in the year, there was a lot of people around the round table that said, if we can get it fit for purpose, if you can intertwine your AMCA pathways, your CDA pathways, and what industry need into that, it becomes something for, it's not for electricians. Electricians might have a stream out of this or something within that qualification, but this is to get people into this industry, and the industry is crying out for people to move into this home automation, or I call it home automation, but yeah.
Bill,
yeah.
Was it Paul that made that? Paul, it's you that was talking, wasn't it? I'm sorry.
Paul's been talking.
It is.
Look, I don't want to. I'm not a negative Nancy, mate. Let me get that straight. Like, it actually excites me, the concepts you've got in this, to tell you the truth, and definitely be interested in the units that build the qualification up. I just want to make sure that's clear, that I'm not here to just go, no, that's a shit idea, you know, like it's like the concept's great, and this would actually bring us into the early 2000s, which would be fantastic as a start, you know, because that home automation is such new stuff, you know. So, but yeah, like it's a fantastic idea, and it'd be exciting to see how it's built. But yeah, it'd be good to see what happens.
There was a fair bit of conversation at the round table that we had, wasn't there, Phil?
Yeah, there was.
From quite a few people that were there, and it's a matter of just, it hasn't been used for so long, and a lot of the older members, like we have in our groups, a lot of the people that have been around here forever, have just said, well, why do we need it? Well, because there is nothing else. And that's what the problem is. So it's got the support of the industry. It's got support of the ACMA regulators, or the registrars, to get all this up and running, the CITT included. It's a matter of just allowing us to revamp it. And a lot of it is, a lot of it's already been done. It's just been done in an American version via the CIT and IST program. It's just a matter of adopting that to create us what we've got here.
Mm. And I suppose, and just before I go to Patrick, I suppose the other thing to note is that Future Skills, who do look after the ICT packages as well, so we will work with them. They're putting proposals in to update their telecommunications qualifications at the moment, and those discussions still need to be had of, you know, when we talk about duplication across training packages, about where the UEE fits into the telecommunication space and where the ICT fits into that space as well. So we're definitely having those conversations with Future Skills who look after those ICT packages. So yeah, Patrick?
Yeah, no, what Paul's talking about is very, very good. The big thing around where Paul's coming from too is that the Victorians, with Dominic's support down there on the tag, on their tag down there, that creating their Cert 2 in integrated technologies and then up to Cert 4 integrated technologies. The basis of that, you know, has proven to be very, very good. It's been a great outcome. The Cert 4 is only just coming online, but the Cert 2 has been running for over 10 years in school programs, and that has produced basically a lot of individuals down there. And I've personally got good experience on it because I just ran a pilot for Queensland, which finishes off now. It's just finished off in the last week or so. And that pilot has shown, you know, for school-based individuals, you know, long and short of it, we did a little bit electrical based, but it was all done on communications and the Internet of Things. And, you know, we had school kids who actually arrived at school early to get started with the trainer because they're that interested in doing it. Now, that is a whole quantum leap from where the UEE 221020 is, where it's just a whole new ballgame. And for those that got to see it and see it in real life action, if what Paul's talking about, if you can get this sort of stuff leading from a prereq program like that up into this, you don't have to throw the baby out with the bathwater. Just like we were saying here, this thing just needs a complete gut and rebuild, and the units to show it, to make it exciting and fit the 21st century, not the 20.
Yeah.
And then you will have a system that's going to work really great.
That, if I can, Phil, to answer Quentin's question, we want to keep the 30320 as it is, because it's already there, and we know the process to get through all of the changes is going to be a pain in the bum. So it's just a matter of reusing what we've already got, the wording, and just changing the content to make it fit for purpose. That's the entire reason for it. And as far as Patrick said about the engagement, we've also got a lot of the industry schools now involved. CEDIA went down and spent a fair bit of time with a few of these schools that we've got up here in Queensland, and Victoria's about to, New South Wales are about to be inundated with them, and they are jumping for it. We're also going into bed with ASIAL, with the security industry, and actually blending the security and the CEDIA programs together to make an ELV tech. And they are jumping at the chance to go.
So I can see this providing a pathway for all those school students that are doing these qualifications, these courses. This is their logical next step forward if they don't want to be electrician, and obviously they haven't gone down the electrician path into school. They've gone down this integration path. So, yeah.
Absolutely
It's
correct.
It's all about the workforce development too, and that's what we've pushed it as. School-based trainee turns into a traineeship, or school-based apprenticeship turns into an apprenticeship. We've got the employers on board, we've got the schools on board. They all want to run it, and it's just a matter, we've got to make it this fit for purpose. It's like everything we do. The comm stuff, it's all going to be doing the same. Whatever the FSO do, PSO will pick it up anyway because it has to match because of ACMA, and everything is built around that. So
yeah,
it'll work. It's just a matter of, we just need to make sure that we've got the endorsement to be able to make it happen.
Excellent. All right. So look, our next steps from here, I think, will be to get these questions out, and hopefully to a wider audience as well. But then I think the next step after that is to get a bit of a roundtable together, and then we can progress forward for PSO to put that submission forward to JUA. So yeah, so we'll look at getting a roundtable together after we get our feedback from our requests from advice. Looking at this one again, I've got good spelling mistakes again on this one, but that's all right. We've got one right and one wrong, but we'll go with that. This just follows on a little bit, and it's more of an awareness to everyone out there that the ACMA provider rules, or the pathways for registration, are coming up. I think it's the middle of next year, and Patrick might even be able to help us out if he's still on the line there. But what that means is
that's correct.
It is correct, is it? Yeah. Basically, what that means to PSO is that we've got to have a bit of a look into this. We will need to propose what that PSO, and our stakeholders will need to propose what that pathway is to gain those accreditation or that cabler's license down the way. And anyone who knows this space knows that you've got, and Paul touched on it before, you've got that ICT pathway, and I think they're reviewing that as we speak as they go through their qualifications. And what PSO will need to do is look at what units of competency we need on the other side of that provider rules to get those people who come through the UEE pathway to gain their license. So we'll be looking at the units of competency, what specializations. Yeah, jump in.
I'm just going to suggest something there too, because I'm just in the process of looking through some NCVER numbers based on the usage of UEE outcomes for ICT for telecommunications registration points. And the nature of it is that it's not really good for UEE outcomes. Not from a qualification perspective, because basically nobody wants the qualification. They only want the units of competency, because that's all you need to get your ACMA regos. But with UEE, obviously, because of the prerequisite pathways within such, the volume means that people have to do more work for the same outcome, more units of competency, the same outcome, and obviously they are more expensive. Where really at the moment you're looking at a UEE pathway for a UEE skill set for your ACMA Open is about $1,000, and most the common market for a ICT one's about $500. Do your homework there. I think it's a situation where, to be blunt, the UEE one is too complicated and the market don't want it, because it's too expensive to deliver for the RTOs, because the other ICT methodology is faster, easier and cheaper. Market's driving that. So
I concur.
And that is the problem, is, to be really blunt, I don't think the UEE ones are required in any way, shape or form, to tell you the truth. They should be replaced with new ICT ones, and you would just make one less units.
Thanks, Patrick. Quinton?
Yeah, Patrick, this was discussed in the TAG meetings extensively
Yes.
last year, and talking about whether I'd be a fan of deleting the DV units, and I haven't been backwards in coming forwards and saying that.
I'll
But
be
then
with
again,
you on that.
I'm one person in the industry and don't know the flow-on effect, because as an RTO, we have students all the time come in with an ICT certificate that is not equivalent to the DV units, so they can't get a transfer.
You can't
on it.
get credit.
So,
Yep.
yeah,
Yeah.
Look, I'd be a fan of that, but it obviously has to be looked at the outfall from that. But like you said, and my argument's always been is you've got the same outcome, you've got the same goal when you do these units, which is getting your cabler's registration, and that's it. So I think you know, in the interest of reducing the load on the job skills councils, only one job skills council should have, you know, units that have the same outcome, you know.
You've got no, I'm all for it, and I'm on the same vein, and that's what I'm picked up across everything.
Yeah.
And there's a lot more things, and I'll say it in here is that the biggest thing around it is the ACMA really don't care. They are not interested if it doesn't have a frequency spectrum that they can sell. They really do not care about what's going on.
Yeah.
And that's the gist of it. But they do. They're required till legislation changes in the Telecommunication Act that they don't have to do it anymore. But while the Telecommunication Act is in place, they are required to do it under their mandate. So they hand it off to others, such as Dominic, basically, and the registrars, and say, you tell us what you want, and if we like it, we'll agree with it, and that's how it's going. But I think rationalisation of it all could be a lot better, because it would be good that if everybody sung on the same hymn book, we'd have a better outcome overall, for at least for the ACMA requirements. You know, and one of the key things around this is that I've just been involved in doing a response based on a complaint to ACMA, based on the ACMA specialisation in underground the underground cabling specialisation.
Yeah.
And the nature of it is, in the last 6 years, 20 people have done it and registered on that unit. This is ANSFAR numbers. So 20 people out of the 75,000 registered cablers in Australia. What's that tell you? Nobody cares. So there's a deeper problem to it, but
we still have all the electrical apprentices that go through that UEE pathway, though, don't they, at this stage?
The reason why they're doing that is just simply it's the fastest, easy. It's achievable, and it can be delivered by RTOs. It also has a large points outcome. That's partly why you have the situation that you mentioned earlier about the UEE pathway and the very large amount of electives. Nobody delivers them because that gets complicated, because then you've got to have a trainer who can train those specializations. You've then got to have the equipment to teach that, and you've got to have the volume of individuals who will buy into those qualification or units of comms, and it's not marketable. So, but the comms is, everybody does it. Yes, every electrician does data cabling around the place. So high points, less outcome, faster completion of apprentices, and let's face it, that in Australia, the electrical industry, 72% of the workers in electrical are self-employed individuals. So there lies the fact that the more work they can do themselves, that's why the numbers will go through and prove why people don't deliver on specializations and stuff. But without getting off subject as such, I think here is, unless they've got major internal rewrites and making them applicable for the 21st century, not the 19th century, which is what the current DV 005 is written around.
Yeah.
And the old F102. I mean, let's face it, F102 until just the new change was talking about the guys had to have a knowledge of payphones. They were never allowed to do it anyway.
No,
right?
that's right.
It's a ludicrous world.
Yeah.
There's so much stuff in it that needs to be just dropped in the bin and really gutted out. And yeah, there's a lot can be done. If it's going to be kept, it's going to have a major rethink of it, and bring it in. And on the same thing too is that I don't believe in the current world there should be an ACMA. There should be a combined unit. If you're going to keep the UEE, you'd make structured cable and open cable as the same unit, and it's all built into one, because you can't have one without the other.
No, thanks, Patrick. Good, some good thoughts there. And I think when we look to advise on this one starting in 2025, I think there will be some of the conversations that we're having. And I think I've got Michaela with a hand up there.
Yeah, we do the data and voice. We've got lots of electricians through to do the UEE, DV005 and 8 and so on and so forth. We had this long discussion beforehand, and we'll be happy to move towards, as an RTO perspective, to the ICT units instead, as long as the appropriate points are allocated within the Cert 2 data and voice, Cert 3 data and voice, and probably the electrician, wherever it's used, basically. The other thing you also mentioned, can't remember who it was, could have been Brett, mentioned that the ICT are reviewing theirs. Is there any chance that we can influence them, that they can change not change, but add on to potential prerequisites for their units to include the UEE CD007 and the workshop unit CD00019? Instead of their units for the I can't remember, because the ICT, you've got the cabling unit, we've got 2 prerequisites, I believe, from vague memory.
Yeah.
Is there any chance that it can be the ICT can allow the UEE as a prerequisite into the ICT unit? Because that'll make it a lot neater, especially if we include it into our qualification.
Very good questions. And I think, I'm not sure, well, sorry, I shouldn't say we're not sure, but as part of the consultation, PSO will be involved with Future Skills, who look after that ICT. And some of the recommendations that we can make, it will be an interesting conversation to have. I know that we're not getting a lot of support for those DV units. So I think these 2 conversations, the one we're having about the 30320 and the ACMA pathways, and I think they will come now. It'll probably, what do they call it? Flip the head off the saw or off the scav or something or other on those DV units. I can't remember the terminology that goes with that, but I think that'll just bring it to a head that we will need to now look at it. The reason why, and I think it was Quinton might have said we had the conversation about the ICT units being in the elective stream of the 30820. I think the main reason why that's just sort of been put on hold is that while they're looking at the 30820 through the EPCs, I think that'll sort of sort that situation out a bit. Yeah, so
well, they've got to
forward.
remember the EPCs will only deal with the core of 30820.
Oh, I know, but it opens up that qualification. So as you open up that qualification, it gives you the opportunity to look at all the other bits and pieces. And I think, there's also potential to be looking at waiting points and all those sorts of things as well. So we'll have to see where that leads as well. The next couple of slides were just if we needed it, I added them in, but that just shows some of those pathways, or the ICT pathway versus the UEE pathways for the Open Reg and those sorts of things as well. Yeah, and we can just skip through those, I think. So 2025. I suppose the question now we ask is what do we want from our stakeholders? And we've had some great discussions today on some of those things that will be coming to the forefront. But I suppose it's over to you as the stakeholders, that what do you want to see talked about? And you can throw something in the chat now, or what you can do is just hit us up on the new Powering Skills website. There is a case for change button there where you can add in what you want to see discussed in these technical advisory groups. Some of the things that are coming up is one that will probably be on, besides those ones we've talked about there, is that the standards for hazardous areas are being reviewed at the moment. So that'll probably come to the forefront next year as well. As those standards come out, we'll need to be making changes to the units of competency around the hazardous areas ones. And if I can just flick over to the next slide. This is one that's coming through our gas technical advisory group, but we've got a review in the moment into the Cert 2 electrotechnology, and although we don't want a lot of crossover and duplication, what has been coming out through that technical group, and sometimes through the UET group as well, is about a Cert 2 in utilities. And it's about focusing on, as it's got there, the site preparation and control and those sorts of things. And it's not, I suppose, the so much the technical side of things, but the practical side of things. Now, they're looking at gas, telecommunications, electricity, water, broad. But, you know, things like preparing for site setup, working safely around infrastructure, codes of practice in the workplace, locating assets, manual excavation, traffic control, basic tools, white card.
You'd have to be very careful about traffic control with the Cert 2 because they'll be underage.
Oh yeah. Look, and again, it's not to give accreditations out, if you like, but it's to discuss those things and give an introduction into it, to see if we can entice more younger people into some of those industries that might not get or might get missed out in that electrotechnology space. And though they're looking at changing, you know, some of the names around electrotechnology and giving that a broader scope, is this something that might have some interest is the question. Yeah. And again, it's not necessarily looking at developing new units of competency. There might be some units of competency in the RII. There might be some units of competency in the CPC. There might be units of competency in the UEE. But yeah, just some of the questions we're looking at there, you know, what should be core, what should be elective, should there be some streams off of this, you know, is there risks and barriers? And I noticed the risks, you know, around duplication. We obviously don't want duplication. But yeah, is there, and Patrick mentioned one there about the traffic control. Is there some considerations there? Obviously, there'll be some considerations around traffic control. But yeah, any thoughts around this one, Quinton?
Just if I can add to what you've just said. So at the moment, the technical committee is looking at whether we need two versions of the Cert 2. One is a what they call a gateway, which is more of a taster program. So, you know, kids can do varying units, come out of it with a Cert 2, but it's a gateway. And they're also looking to whether we need the gateway and a pathways certificate. So the pathways would look at if a student sort of knows what they want to do, it's a pathway to electrotechnology. The gateway would be something that just gives them a taster of varying areas of that vocation. It's an extremely difficult process. Patrick just pointed out the problem with traffic control. We're having issues because work health and safety is a prerequisite in literally everything. So we're trying to find units that don't put students at risk, that the regulators are happy with, because the regulators really don't want anyone working on LV or anything that looks like LV. So it's actually quite a difficult process. So many hands make light work. So if you come up with or find units or think units are going to be beneficial in, say we do this utilities version, it would be good to put those suggestions in.
Yeah, no, great. Patrick.
Yeah, just one thing, having just recently given away working with Cert 2 school programs and stuff, one of the key things that needs to be heavily done in the Cert 2 program and also pathways programs, because they're intended for those transitioning to work from school or grade 10 or 11, there's on. All these units of competency need to be, as much as possible, with a very high practical content written into them. Yes, theory's component, but at the moment, like the Cert 2, it's too theory heavy, and the kids hate it, despise it, and do not engage. The more that it becomes practical, they've got to be doing stuff, not sitting in a classroom. That will probably give it some success. If it's not going to have a lot of heavy practical in it, it will fail miserably.
Yeah. And the other thing that came out of when we were talking about this in our gas reference group was about work placement, having a component that is actually attached to doing work in the field. I don't know what your thoughts are around that, the people in this group, but
well, I mean, they're good. It is good to have some form of practical. However, you again got to put yourself in the case of the business that are doing it. For one, if they had to go and do a gas thing, they're going into a hazardous area, so the employers are just not going to go there, right? And when we say in most of our UEP program people, those UEP program and those operators are not residential and not in built-up areas. A lot of that stuff is out in back
regional areas. Yeah.
So it's just that's not going to happen for a practical outcome. The telco probably be the best one that's going to have the opportunity to have a placement program. Electricity has its complications. Yeah, they can do ride-ons, but they're very limited in what they can do under legislation. And water, I can't speak too much with water, the utilities, but then again, why have we got water in there? It's not in the UEE. It's not in the UEE or the utilities mandate. That's a different program.
And that's a good question. And it was just about giving the students like a wide view of what utilities are out there, I think, and trying to attract people into the utilities type sector as well. So
totally understand. I think it's a case that, many years ago, they ran going back into my ancient past, one of the best programs that was for a pre-apprenticeship program was the ones that actually took them in and taught them a little bit of hands-on skills from all the trades, right? Like you're saying there, site preparation. If you're going to do a site preparation for a piece of work, for any piece of infrastructure, okay, you've got to level it, you've got to lay it. Then you've got to, it may include putting some concrete in. Well, Do they know how to use a saw to cut the timber for the boxing to put it in? Do they know how to dig a hole and put the boarding back up? You know, there are all of those things, and that's probably a good all-round sort of thought. And as I said, it's a flavour of a whole range of things, and that probably is going to be the best option. And also the new world that we're coming from now is that what's the level of entry coming in, and what have we got to build them up to, and you know, what are their foundations coming in, including like the FSO project of AI and the extent of digital skills that have got to be built into it. So there is a point, some of that point of getting them to the base level of what they need. Yeah, there's it's not a problem that it can't happen. It's just that it's got to have a real interesting thing around it.
Yeah.
But it could be that, you know, as I said, I think it's going to be the RTOs delivering it probably need to have a lot of ability to make good, solid practicals and keep them busy and do these processes.
Yeah.
And then I think it'll have a work.
Yeah, and this project, well, it says there's a research project, but when the JSEs undertake these sorts of things, to get something up and running, we've got to have the data, we've got to have the research, we've got to have all that in place. It's not just like we've got a couple of industries there in the background. Yep, we'll go ahead and make a Cert 2 these days. It's not quite as simple as that. So the data, the research, the workforce planning, all those things in the background will need to be taking place. So, but the first part is to get that interest from those employers, the RTOs in industry, to see if it's a goer or not. So excellent. All right, let's move on. Oh, and that brings us to the end, really. Is there anyone would like to just make a comment before we close? I do encourage everyone to jump on for our case for change. We will be putting out our request for advice, so please do, when that comes into your mailbox, please answer that. Michaela?
Just a quick one. Last time we spoke about splitting the, I think it's UEE EC0043, getting rid of it and replacing it with that's the very early basic electrical circuits. Was splitting the 80-point unit, splitting to 240-point ones. Has there been any word on that? Any thoughts on that one?
So that are they the series and parallel that sit into the
the series and multi-path one. So rather than having the 80-point unit using which electricians did in part of the Cert 3 electrotechnology electrician, they got rid of their 80-point, which was the E104, the old code, and they're using whatever the two new codes are. I can't remember what they are. But there's CDs 4.4 and 4.6, I think it is.
Yes.
Any thoughts on any progress on that one there?
Yeah. So while and I'm not trying to fob anyone off or anything like that, but while they're looking at the 30820, the Cert 3 qualification, and the EPCs, because some of those EPCs, the new ones, will flow into those units, we'll just have to wait to see what comes into those units before we look at combining or pulling them apart again, because they'll be doing that as part of that project. So it might just take a little bit longer than we first thought, but they'll be definitely looking at those units in the 30820, and then we can build on the outcomes of that moving forward into the other units of competency. So yeah.
Okay, cool. And I suppose another one, which is I think I mentioned last time, was the combining of groups, like at diploma level, where I believe the Cert 3 electronics and communications in the previous iteration of the advisory combined groups A and B together into one group, one set of electives. And is there any chance, like in diploma, there could be the A and B combined into one group and the C and D combined into another group? Is that any word on that one?
Yeah, I think as we do go through and revisit a lot of these qualifications, that was a bit of a mandate from the last ISCs or the last ones to combine some of those elective groups, and I think there's a lot more appetite for that to happen. And moving forward, I think that's got some legs in it as well. Yeah.
Oh, brilliant! Thank you.
All right. Just putting a bit of a shout out too that in March next year we're going to be having a PSO summit. So a PSO summit's going to be held in Sydney, and I believe it is the 6th and 7th of March. I'm getting a bit of a nod there from Brett, so that's good. And yeah, so everyone will be invited. We're probably going to break up the 2 days a little bit. The second day might be a little bit more technical based than the first day, which might be more on that employer type area. But by all means, open to everyone, and it'll be over 2 days in Sydney on the 6th and 7th of March. So look out for that on our socials as well.
Also on the 7th, 8th and 9th is Everything Electric show, all about EVs, cars and everything at the showgrounds as well in Sydney.
Oh, excellent. There you go.
Make a week of it.
Make a week of it in Sydney. Excellent. All right, if there's nothing else from everyone, we might close out there and thank everyone for attending. And so next year we'll be continuing on with our tags. We'll have at least 3 as a minimum next year, and any round tables or technical groups that break off from that will also be held. So big thank you for everyone today. Great conversations, and look out for our requests for advice and the invitations to the summit on our socials. We'll see you all later. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
See everyone.
See ya.